Gimme this life so sweet. 5,000 good Tennessee skies. Rebel hearts beating in the summer night's disguise. Curfew, whispers in the dark. Behold our story. It's the Junebug heat. That Junebug beat.
Well, a very good afternoon. How things can change in a matter of hours. You can see by the two gentlemen stood beside me that there are not one but two umbrellas, and it is certainly raining here in Oschersleben. Welcome back to the GT Summer Series for the final race of the weekend here in Oschersleben. I do, of course, have Adam Weller and Andy McEwen alongside me. Well, boys, the obvious talking point is that at the moment I've got the two of you to keep me dry. I probably won't have that for very long. It's raining.
It is raining, and this is what some drivers have been hoping for after the intermediate no man's land conditions that we had just now in race number 2. I think actual rain and actual treaded tyres will be welcome to quite a few parties, the likes of Marco Reinbold, who of course had his spin in race numero 2. Let's see what happens there. But yes, I'm seeing a lot of treaded tyres on cars. I think it's safe to say this isn't going away anytime soon.
No, I certainly don't think so. I mean, there are some very grey looking clouds, aren't there, Andy? But as Adam rightly says, you know, for a few of the drivers this morning, that was what was catching them out, is that it wasn't fully wet, but it wasn't fully dry either.
Yeah, speak to 90% of drivers and they'll tell you those are the conditions they dread the most. They're not on the right tyre, but it's not really the wrong tyre either. They've not got the right setup on. They don't know how to commit to each corner. And now at least things will be a little better. However, I'm fairly certain they've had no wet running this week. In any of the pre-event testing, we've had gorgeous weather across most of Northern Europe over the last week or two. So they're still going into this a little bit blind. That's why I suspect we've got cars a little bit late to the Heroes Arena. They're desperately trying to bolt on some sort of approximation of a wet setup, but no one will really know exactly what that will be. It's great news for us, though, from a neutral perspective, because I think this could really shuffle the deck quite a bit. Who's got it right, who's got it wrong, and who can adapt the best, that will decide it.
Yeah, it certainly will. And as Andy says, you know, we are starting to fill up a little bit more now in the Heroes Arena, but understandably, some of the drivers and teams not wanting to bring their cars just yet because they want to just see if they can maybe tweak a couple of things just to cope with this rain. And as he says, no wet running so far this weekend for our teams and drivers. Well, we have had two races. We now go into the pit stop race, the 50-minute race. We've had two 30-minute sprint races, and so far it's been Thomas Verstappen on top, hasn't it? I mean, yes, he troubled a little bit more in the slippy-ish conditions by of course Hermann Speck this morning, but yes, I mean, really for Thomas Verstappen so far it's been a great weekend.
Yeah, it's been a fabulous weekend for Thomas, but I'm not sure these are the conditions, you know. The Audi R8 LMS in its Evo 2 spec, which is what he's got, one of the main talking points, one of the main development goals for that car was improving drivability, because by nature it is quite a stiff car, it's a mid-engine car, and that means that it can be a bit treacherous around some quick corners, particularly in slippery conditions. They've improved it a lot with the spec that he's got here today, but it's still not ideal. Certainly the Porsche rear engine, lot of weight at the back, lot of traction out of these corners in slippery conditions. Hermann certainly thinks he's got the advantage there in terms of the lead battle in the GT3 class, and I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, I certainly am looking forward to seeing what happens. Right, just before I let you guys go off into the commentary box and get in the dry, I can't say the same for myself, but that's okay. Cup 2 battles as well. We're hoping that that's going to give us something. Eagle Clier slightly off the pace, just taking a little bit easy in those conditions earlier on, just difficult to judge maybe, but we're hoping that it's going to give us plenty of battles. And for Tristan as well, Tristan Geschwendner, first race weekend, and these are maybe the conditions that he doesn't welcome.
Maybe. He doesn't seem to be fazed by a lot, though, does young Tristan, and went really well in race 2 this morning, got his first ever win, which was really cool to see. He was really happy with that as well, which is what we like, happy drivers on the podium. It's not always the way. Yeah, Cup 2, those cars are notoriously difficult to drive in the wet. They're very snappy. Yes, they're rear-engine Porsches, so they've got decent traction, but they're quite tricky to drive, and so I suspect we might see that become a little bit of a battle of attrition, who can make the fewest mistakes. I don't think he or Clive will be thrilled to see these conditions, if I'm honest. He backed off a little bit in race 2 to preserve himself in the car when it started to get damp. But yeah, in one-make categories, you throw a little bit of rain in there and it can sometimes massively favour one driver over another. It's going to be interesting to see if that's the case today.
It certainly will be. Right, well, the Heroes Arena is starting to fill up. We're going to come back when we have a few more teams and drivers, but this Heroes Arena has been busy all weekend long, and we have kept the boys very busy in between the two races, speaking to a lot of our faces from around the paddock. Let's take a look now.
Well, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the Gedlich Racing paddock, W&S Motorsport, and here at the GT Summer Series second event, Maximilian Schreier, one of their drivers. Max, great to have you here. Of course, you sort of started your racing journey with us in GT Winter Series or GT4 Winter Series. What brings you into the Summer Series paddock?
Yeah, I mean, just having a good time on track, also preparing for the GT4 Germany here in Oschersleben in 2 months' time, and yeah, that's mostly it.
It's been an interesting weekend, hasn't it, for you guys, because you're the only GT4 Pro outfit, which means you run with a heavier Porsche Cayman, but actually that means you've had a few battles to enjoy.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to battle with the AMs. I mean, we have, I think, 60 kilos success ballast on the car. But yeah, overall it's going great so far, preparing the car and everything. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
It's great to have you here, it really is. Now, we're taking a bit of a break from the racing this afternoon, so we thought we'd get a chance to get to know our drivers a little bit better. Maximilian Schreier, we're going to play a Would You Rather challenge, is that the word? I'm not sure. You're familiar with how this works, yes? Okay, good. We're going to ask you some sensible and some less sensible questions and get your thoughts on them, so pick between what you would prefer. So, let's start with supercar or hot hatch?
A supercar.
A supercar.
Definitely.
Well, you like speed, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Of
Fast straights, not corners.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What would your supercar of choice be? Careful how you answer this.
I think at the moment 992 GT3 RS, or going a bit more into the past Carrera GT, which is
Ooh, good
mostly
choice.
I guess more a hypercar. But yeah, Carrera GT is definitely one of my dream cars.
We'll allow it. Okay, see, I'm a Ford Focus ST man myself. They're a bit too quick for me, those hypercars. Would you rather drive or race at the Nordschleife or Bathurst?
I mean, as a German, I have to choose the Nordschleife. I mean, my dad raced there as well as in the past, so I think has a special place in my heart. So yeah, definitely the Nordschleife. Yeah.
Would it scare you, do you think, racing there? I watch and I'm terrified just watching.
I mean, not really. I like the old belong tracks, which, yeah, I think also the history and everything. It's a very special place, so I think not very scared. More, I have a respect for the place, definitely. Watching all the races in the past, but yeah, it would be a lot of fun.
Okay, good. Speaking of fun, what would you enjoy more? We're changing topics slightly here. Would you rather be able to fly or turn invisible?
Fly.
Fly. Okay. On the track, being invisible would be helpful, though, no?
Yeah, I mean, the car is not invisible.
No, I guess not. Fair enough. Right. Would you like to... I did not write this question. I'm just going to put this disclaimer out there. Would you like to fight one duck-sized gorilla or one gorilla-sized duck? Think long and hard about this.
I guess one duck-sized gorilla.
A duck-sized gorilla, so a really small gorilla.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, I think I agree.
That's
I've not given it much thought, but I think I'd agree with that. Okay, we'll move on. Would you rather start the race without ABS or without traction control?
Without traction control. We don't drive with traction control.
Of course, yeah,
so,
pro racing driver,
yeah.
right? Okay.
So I think having ABS is more helpful than traction control.
Yeah, stopping is actually more important
Yeah.
than going, isn't it, sometimes? Would you rather spend a week at the bottom of the ocean or a week in space?
I think a week at the bottom of the ocean. I prefer to stay on Earth rather than going outside.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I fancy either. A week on a beach in the Caribbean, I think, is more my kind of vibe. What haven't we asked you? Would you rather win the 24 Hours of Le Mans or the Nürburgring 24 Hours?
That's a hard question. Both are very special, but I think I'll have to go with the Nordschleife again.
Yeah. Just more of a challenge?
Yeah. I mean, both tracks are very special. I mean, also with the history and everything behind it. But yeah, I think the Nordschleife. Yeah.
Excellent. Of course, what you really want is to win a round of the GT4 Pro class in the GT Summer Series, and hopefully that's something that will happen this weekend at Oschersleben.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, one of the new entries for Oschersleben this weekend in the GT Summer Series is Equipped Vitesse. We have the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo in the background here, but more importantly, we've got Jill from the team with us. And Jill, I know it's been a slightly tricky weekend at times, but it's so good to have you because, of course, we see you so much in the winter, in Endless Summer, and sometimes in the Winter Series too. How are you finding it so far?
Yes, hi. So we started with the first winter series in Almeria, I guess. It was the first race. Also with this AMG, also with this driver. And yeah, he was winning the first race. So for us, it was natural to come here and to take part in the inaugural season of the summer series. Yeah, we had nearly Nordschleife weather here.
Yes.
But it's also the same for Oschersleben. We know it. So it was not the best one for us. We didn't know if we have slicks or wet tires or what do we choose. And yeah, unfortunately, in the last race, we had some problems with shifting. And yeah, but we are here and we are back in this big family.
Yeah, and it's always good to have you back. When the Wind Series started, I think it was quite an amateur-focused product. And in recent years, there have been more pro and pro-am entries, young silver drivers in the GT Winter Series. I think here in the Summer Series, in some ways, this is almost a return to roots because there are more drivers like Josef and some of his compatriots.
Yeah, so we also talked to Robin and also all the Gedlich guys in the winter and tried to help to find a good regulation for this series to get a series in summer for our gentleman driver. And that's more important because they just want to have fun, but also they are paying us, not the pros. And yeah, we had to find a solution, a series for gentleman drivers, yeah.
Absolutely, and your feedback has been an invaluable part of that process. I know that for a fact. This is your first time. You weren't with us at Hockenheim. Do you think there's a chance, Josef, maybe some of your other customers may make an appearance before the year runs out?
Yeah, I think so. At Hockenheim, we had some other races like the 24 hours qualifiers, and we had so much cars there that we were not able to split each others. And for sure, Nürburgring will be, and also Hockenheim. Hockenheim is nearly our home race. I think we will be there. I don't know with Josef, but we have some more GT3 cars and customers, and I think we will come back. Yeah, sure.
That's fantastic to hear. And obviously, we reference Josef, and he's been with Equipped Vitesse from day one. He was very much part of forcing it into creation. But the relationship between Josef and your family, the Herbst family, goes back a lot further, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. We know each other from the 24-hour race in 2008 at the Nürburgring, and as well in different Creventic races, 12 hours of Mugello or 24 hours of Dubai. And then we started with the Mercedes SLS in the STT in 2014. And then in the beginning of 2017, we decided, together with Sepp, to do our own team. And he helped us with all our equipment and truck and teamwear and something in the beginning. And yeah, now we are proud to be here in our 10th season right now.
Oh, and it's been great to see the team developing. Of course, you've won so many championships here in Germany and further afield as well. Lastly, going back all the way to February at Valencia, of course, there was maybe a step further in the relationship between Gedlich and yourselves, because our own Jan Jürger drove your Porsche 991.1 Cup car. How was that? Did he impress you?
Yeah, absolutely. So he just had 10 laps with this car at Portimao, and then some laps on the sim for Valencia, and we were so impressed of him because he led the 992 cars behind him, and the 991.1, it's important, is a fast car, yes, but it was the slowest car on the field, and we were very impressed of him. And also where there was an accident right in front of him, and his reaction were quite good. Yeah, we were very happy with him.
Yeah, he did a good job and he kept the car clean, which is great news. Of course, we have more to come in the season. I'm glad to hear that we'll be seeing more of you, but thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me here today. And I suppose good luck for the third race, which is just coming up.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And keep an eye on the car number 50, one of the nicest liveries on the grid, I'm sure you'll agree. And we look forward to seeing what Josef Kluber can do going forward if he joins us again. One of the new additions for Cup 2 this weekend is Urs Frick. He was with us last time at Hockenheim with a restricted car because he was running to a national licence. That's the big news for you, I suppose, since we last spoke, Urs. You are now an international licence holder. You're driving the car at full spec, full power, less weight, and it looks like it's been good fun so far.
Yeah, it makes... It's very good to drive the car now. I have the power, and so I have good fight with the Cup 2 boys.
Yeah, then they've been keeping you on your toes, and you've been keeping them on their toes, more importantly, with your teammate Mike Janser, with Marco Reinbold as well. Now, I was talking to your team boss, and he told me something interesting, that you're very interested and very good at skiing.
Yeah.
Is there anything at all from the world of skiing that is transferable into motorsport?
Yeah, that it is. Skiing is almost the same. You have turns, you have speed, you must brake, and so you can translate it to the race car. Yes.
Interesting. And you've done a lot of driving in race cars. We haven't done much racing. This is only your second meeting, but you've done a lot of track days in some older Porsche Cup cars and things like that. Porsche is always the brand for you. Is that your favourite car company?
Yeah, I love Porsches.
Yes.
Especially the 911.
Okay.
Yeah, GT3 cars, GTS, GT3, RS, Cups. Yes, that all very, very good track tools, and I love it. Yeah.
And so it goes beyond the racetrack. You have some road cars at home as well that are Porsches?
No.
Ah. Okay, interesting.
I had one.
Okay.
But that's 5 years ago.
Okay. Now we're just focusing on the track. Now, the Summer Series paddock, I think it's a good place to learn. It's quite relaxed. There are some people who are very experienced and you can learn from them, but there are other drivers, like Mike, who are also quite new to racing. I guess it's good to be able to compare yourselves to all of these guys.
Yeah. That's the reason of this show here. Mm-hmm. And yes, that's for me very special. I can drive with other compares with other drivers with the same cars, and yeah, so I can learn a lot of things.
Now, racing, I think, has come into your life quite late, but was it always a dream of yours? Was it always something you thought, I'd love to have a go at that one day?
No, not really. 10 years ago, I bought my first 911 GTS, and so I went to the first track day. Yes, and that was the beginning of, or the start of this Adventure, yes. Thanks.
And quite an adventure that it's been so far. Wet conditions, dry conditions, you've had a little bit of everything. Do you already feel more confident racing now than you did for race 1 at Hockenheim? Are you already more comfortable in the race car?
No, it's the same. Hockenheim or here in Oschersleben. Race is race. I enjoy every track, wet or dry. It's no problem for me. Racing is racing.
Well, I'm not surprised because, again, your team boss told me he'd done thousands and thousands of kilometres worth of track days, so it makes a lot of sense. You have been great fun to watch this weekend, and we're so happy to have you in the Cup 2 class. Are you here all for the rest of the season as well? For all three?
Yeah.
That's great news. Brilliant. So we look forward to seeing this man, Urs Frick, battling in Cup 2 all through the rest of the season. Keep an eye on car number 69.
Well, here we go then. Welcome back down to the Heroes Arena, where we have certainly filled up with cars, not really filled up with drivers, or those that have arrived to the Heroes Arena have got swiftly in their cars and closed the door. Completely understandable, because I can tell you, maybe you can tell by my hair, maybe you can tell by the scenes around us, that it is very, very wet down here, but they've just got 10 minutes to go until they get onto the green flag lap. So I'm going to run you through the grid. We'll maybe see if we can chat to some people, but I understand that they want to keep all those electronics inside the car dry. Something that I can say I'm not feeling particularly dry right now, but that's okay. It's going to be the number 45 of Thomas Verstappen, our championship leader, on pole position, and hasn't he had a fantastic weekend so far? And well, we were speaking earlier and we were saying, you know, that it was kind of difficult for these drivers earlier in the weekend because, of course, this morning it wasn't really dry, it wasn't really wet, so it was really difficult for them to gauge the conditions. Well, I can tell you that the conditions now, it's easy to gauge, they're wet. And alongside him, once again on the front row, will be Herman Speck. Now, we had a nice chat to Herman during the break between the two races, myself and Andy, over lunch, and he feels confident now, although that was before all this rain started coming down. And he was also saying to Adam that he was one that wanted it to be fully wet or fully dry, kind of not in between. So I think he's got his wish. It's fully wet now this afternoon. But we were also talking to him about how it's been with this new car. And the thing is, he was saying it's not so much the car that is the difference. It's up here. It's the mind that's different. Because it's a new car, he's telling himself that he needs to be a little bit more careful. And that is why we're seeing maybe not taking so much risk. He actually said to me that he felt like he could have taken a little bit more risk, maybe even got the win this morning, but we'll see what he can do. Of course, he's now got the most confidence, having driven the track in 2 races already, as I'm getting a raindrop straight in my eye. But we'll continue back because we then have the number 3 of Mike Janssen. Now, he's taken all of the Cup 2 wins so far. Obviously, we saw a little bit more of a battle this morning in that race, and it was unfortunate for the 911 alongside me of Marco Reinbold. Now, Marco took that spin whilst he was really doing a great job at defending from those other Cup 2 class drivers behind him. Of course, Mike Janssen and the 69 of Urs Frick was doing a fantastic job to withstand all of that pressure, and then unfortunately just took a spin in tricky conditions. So he will be hoping for better this afternoon. We'll see what he can do, but hey, this is the wettest running that we have had all weekend long. It's the only properly wet running that these drivers will have had, so it's going to be super, super tricky for them. We'll continue back onto the next row, and we have the number 69 of Urs Frick alongside. Now, he's another one who's been getting more and more confident with every single race, and the rain is coming down very, very heavy now. Thank you, Matthias, has just given me an umbrella briefly. You know what, I'm going to come and chat to your driver, so that would be great. Igor, I mean, this is going to be tough, isn't it?
No, it's lovely.
Lovely weather.
Yeah, it's normal Portuguese, Spanish weather. I remember it very well from Winter Series. I'm very happy. So with Fabian, we love it. You know, we are Vikings from Poland, so we like such conditions. Yeah, no, actually we're happy. I don't like, you know, something like it's rain, no rain, I don't know. So this one is fine.
Yeah, it's that kind of in between that was sort of catching you out a little bit this morning, right?
Yeah. So in the morning I was very careful with the driving, because I didn't know it was my first race in such conditions. But when it's rain, actually, you know, the problem is that nobody of us, if I'm right, was driving on wet conditions on this track. So it's something new, but Fabian was driving and I count on him. He's young like me, just 1 year younger than me, so the future is for him.
I'm not sure that you would say the same, but how are you feeling? Obviously, first race this weekend that you'll jump in for.
I'm for sure excited. I'm happy it's raining for sure, because we have together a very good pace in these conditions. I hope they don't do a red flag, so I fingers crossed for that. Other than that, then let's just see how it goes.
Yeah, fingers firmly crossed for you both. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
speaking
you.
to us. I'm going to duck out now and continue to get wet, but that's okay. I'll be in the dry in a minute, won't I? Right, we will continue back because we next see the number 5 of Tristan Geschwendtner. Now, of course, that Cup 2 class win for him this morning in only his second race ever. Well, of course, making his GT debut with us this weekend. He's done a fantastic job. And I want to come and speak to this man here, not just because he's got an umbrella that I can stand under, Michael, because you are obviously father of Tristan. How were the nerves this morning?
Oh, terrible. Believe me. So yesterday, today, it's so amazing. So my pulse goes up and down. Oh, wow. And it's a lot of stress behind the screen. So more, I think, for me than for him.
And Adam was telling me that they kind of got this love of racing from their mother rather than from you. Is that correct?
Yes, from the mother, yes. She was doing test racing 30 years ago already. So I'm more the SUV driver. So I'm not that much in the sports car. So I'm more slowly.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. All three are driving with the Gedlich winter and summer series, so it's great.
Yeah, we'd spotted that Tristan's brother is here. He also has a racing license. Are we going to get him out at some point this year?
You will see him because they will go together in Portimao with 6 hours.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, as a team, and so he has to practice before.
Ah, well, you heard it here first. We will see them in the Portimao 6 hour. Just how tricky is this going to be, though? Because he's not done a full wet race like this, and this is properly wet.
Yeah, this is terrible. I mean, he has fun with it because in Portimao he practices in the rain. But come on. My wife just said a lot of cars are going up there and there's a lot of rain there. So let's see how it will be.
Yeah, I mean, the heavens kind of opened right for this race, and it's a lot longer than the other races that he's done. They've got the pit stop to contend.
Pit stop, so it's really tough to do it. And I told him, hey, there are 3 in there, so you only have to bring it home. But, you know, they are racers.
Yeah, exactly.
They always want to be on the top.
Well, we'll see how they get on, or how Tristan gets on, and I'm sure the heart rate for you. You need a heart rate monitor or something to see how high it goes.
And then I have to go somewhere in the corner, right?
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
welcome.
Enjoy watching the race. I'm going to duck out and continue to get wet, but that's okay. Right, next along we have Frederik Zebis and Maximilian Schreier in the number 31 W&S Porsche. Wow, it's great to have them on our grid. We saw earlier Andy was having a nice chat with Maximilian Schreier. It's great to welcome them back, of course, both of them with us in the GT4 Winter Series, and I think maybe the weather quite similar to what was in the GT4 Winter Series. We'll see if they can come through, because worth saying to you, quite a few of these drivers are still learning the wet conditions, still learning their cars. Of course, we have quite a few amateur drivers here who are still learning, still a bit cautious, and maybe that experience in these conditions for Frederik Zebis and Maximilian Schreier can help them come through to the front. We will see how far up they manage to get. Then we have the other W&S Porsche, that is the number 30 of Gökay Kutlu and Alexander Dancer, and these cars looking very similar but driven by very different drivers. Of course, Gökay Kutlu new to racing, very new to racing indeed. He made his debut with us in Hockenheim. And then just finally, before we let the cars go off, that will be happening very, very shortly, we will show you the number 27. Now, this looks very different, of course. This is a different car to the one that Bernd Scheibel sadly crashed this morning in a race 2, but they have managed to get this car, which was entered this weekend in a different series racing here. They've managed to get it on the grid, and Tobias Erdmann is strapped in there ready to go. We are almost ready to go for the final race of the weekend. One last final look down the grid, and boys, it'll be up to you in commentary, where, dare I say it, you're a little bit drier than I am.
Well, thank you, Izzy. Yes, I appreciate that. Certainly not the job for today, doing the Heroes Arena grid walk, but we are now approaching race time then. 50 minutes of racing on deck here, as we've alluded to already. A couple of drivers, unfortunately, sitting out of this race. Bertolt Grün and Josef Kluber for Grün Motorsport and Equip Vitesse. respectively. So that's 2 GT3 cars out of the race, but the GT3 battle has certainly been the front row of the grid that we see here as the 1 minute board goes up, and that is between Thomas Verstappen and Hermann Speck, the CCS racing team, Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2, and the DB Motorsport Porsche of Kenneth Heyer in second position. Sorry, Kenneth Heyer, I just said. Hermann Speck. Sorry, I was talking about Kenneth for someone about an hour ago, and it's seemingly imprinted on my head. Cup 2 battle, I think, is going to be of very much note in this one. Of course, we've seen the 2 SA cars, Urs Frick right up there, Mike Janza up there as well, and Marco Reinbold now in this race sharing with Paul Hochberger. That is a very, very strong combination, but do not rule out Igor Klyer and Fabian Di Bianca by any means. Especially don't rule out Fabian Di Bianca, because he told me he was going for the overall win.
Oh, really?
He says that in this weather, he reckons that car is capable of doing it in his hands. So we'll have to keep an eye on the young 16-year-old sensation. I remember that when speaking to team boss Martin, when he was going to debut in the Winter Series, told me all about his ambitious young charge, and I learned more and more why that was the branding that he was associated with. Of course, in the GT4 class as well, W&S Motorsport with their pair of cars, one in Pro and one in Am. And to that point, while they are in separate classes as in Pro and Am, the idea is that the same spec of car can compete on even terms, even if there is a Pro driver or an Am driver, courtesy of ballast and other performance equalization measures. And especially in GT4, we've seen the showcase that works here.
Absolutely so, and I'm intrigued to see how the wet conditions affect that, because actually carrying extra ballast, 60 kilos, perhaps has less of an effect, less of a negative effect in the wet, and actually can lead to the car being a bit more planted. There's more weight on the car, and might stop it floating around on the surface water that we do have. We'll get our first glimpse now of what the track conditions are like. It rained not super heavily, but for a reasonably prolonged period of time, and so the track has had a good soaking, and definitely properly wet conditions. I don't think there's any question of tyre choice for this one. It is going to be full wet tyres.
Yes, Thomas Verstappen then set to start on pole position for this race alongside Hermann Speck. First race, Verstappen ran away with it. Hermann Speck was a lot closer in the kind of intermediate greasy conditions in race 2. Let's see what he can do in race 3 of the weekend. Mike Janza is next. He's alongside Marco Reinbold in the number 911 XR machine. Row number 3, another SA performance machine. That's Urs Frick alongside Igor Klyer. Urs Frick, keen skier, and he says that there's a lot of transferable skill sets to racing. I'm yet to grasp them myself, but I can't ski. Igor Klyer, as we said, alongside him. Then we get into the GT4 cars. W&S Motorsport's Maximilian Schreier from 7th place in the GT4 Pro class. He's joined by Tristan Geschwendtner, whose father we just heard from down there in the Heroes Arena, the East Racing Motorsport charge, who won his first ever class victory a little earlier on in the day. W&S Motorsport's Gökay Kutlu is next. He's joined by Tobias Erden of Safe Art Motorsport. You see there at the back of the field the new 27 car. That car's been out in a pair of races already this weekend in the local championship here to Oschersleben, and thankfully they did have 2 cars on site. Tobias Erdmann and Bernd Scheibler have been double dipping this weekend, but I think that Bernd has decided to give this one a sit out, and Tobias Erdmann is scheduled, I think, to do the entire race distance all on his own. So it's going to be slippery conditions out there on the circuit for sure. It's gotten so heavy, the rain, over the course of the last half hour or so. The circuit was bone dry not 30 minutes ago, and here we are in a torrential downpour. We are going to have 2 formation laps, so we're just coming into the end of the first one now. It's going to be a 50-minute race. It's going to be a pit stop race with pit window from minute 20 through to minute 30 in the race, and then it will be 100 seconds from pit in to pit out, including 80 seconds stationary in front of your box. It's going to be very interesting to see how the drivers jumping in halfway through adapt to this, because I think in the first minutes of this race it is very much going to be he who adapts quickest, isn't it?
Definitely so, and some drivers are naturally more comfortable in these conditions than others. So, yeah, those drivers will surge to the front, I suspect. But yeah, how are the track conditions going to develop? Sorry, as the race goes on, certain parts of the circuit doesn't look like the rain is that heavy, but over on the back part of the track it was absolutely torrential on that first green flag lap. So for now, conditions will keep getting wetter, but if that rain stops at any point, there is a chance of that, then the track conditions are going to start to improve. I'm not saying we're going to get down to a slick tyre, certainly not, but less surface water will change the way in which you have to approach the track. So yes, specifically those teams who will be doing a driver change, the second half of the race could look quite different to the first, and there are a couple of notable cars we've already mentioned, particularly within the Cup 2 and GT4 classes, where that could well be the case.
Now, the 50 minutes has already started with this second formation lap, so the clock is now ticking. The race start has, officially speaking, taken place, but we will go 2 by 2 for the rolling start very shortly. And I think that run down to turns 1 and 2 strikes me as a real danger zone, even when you're only single file at racing speeds. It's ripe for aquaplaning, isn't it? Because even under normal conditions, you're braking, turning at the same time, and that's never easy to achieve. Mix that in with standing water potentially, and you've really got a recipe for at least challenge, if not disaster.
Yes, and of course the normal racing line through turn 1 is to have all 4 wheels over the inside curb. Well, in the wet, you don't really want to go near those. We saw that in the race earlier on today. Look at this section of the track, how slippery the painted curbs and concrete can be. So you're going to have to adapt your line. The grippier side of the road is often the outside edge of the track, away from the rubbered up dry racing line, but that also means you're very close to the edge of the road if you get it wrong. So yeah, this is going to be a voyage into the unknown, and I anticipate drama.
On edge here at Oschersleben as we roll in 2 by 2 formation around the final corner, the Saxony-Anhalt bend. We have 47.5 minutes of racing left to run here. 2 by 2 formation. The red lights are on at the top of the gantry and they are out, and it's a flying start from the Porsches on the second row of the grid. And it looks like, of the front runners in GT3, Hermann Speck has the advantage, but he's off the throttle earlier, and Thomas Westarp leads into the first turn. A lot of spray, a lot of standing water, and a lot of ambition from Mike Janser, who runs around the outside of the number 7 car. Hermann Speck losing out then early doors. Mike Janser feeling very brave and very confident. A twitch there for Thomas Westarp as he tried to get the car slowed up for the turn 3 hairpin, and it's certainly looking tricky, it's certainly looking slippery, and the Cup 2 cars looking pretty good off the line, and Mike Janser in particular seems to be thriving.
Yes, he's not the only one. Tobias Erdmann leads in GT4 at the moment in the Audi that started off the back of the grid. He came carving round the outside of everyone through the first couple of corners, and he has got himself to the head of the GT4 field. In fact, he's ahead of Igor Klayer's Porsche, Cup 2 Porsche, and it looks to me as though that's Frederick Zebis, who's the next GT4 car. Of course, he's in the GT4 Pro categorisation, but there is the white, black and red Audi that has leapt halfway up the order, Adam.
Yeah, that's a really impressive start then from Erdmann. Of course, it's not a spare car in the conventional sense. It's been doing running. They've probably got something close to a proper setup on the car. But all the same, jumping into a completely different machine is always a challenge. And indeed, Seyfarth have obviously had to withdraw chassis 1, the car we saw in race 1 and 2. But I can say, having watched one of the races from the local series, the NATC, that car was damaged on Saturday as well. Not to a point where it was stopped out of the race, but it really was a little bit second-hand. They've had to work really hard this weekend. I'm glad the car is out there and representing. And look, he's challenging for, well, an unofficial Cup 2 podium. He's right up there, one of the fastest cars on track.
Yeah, Marco Reinbold, interestingly, doesn't look that comfortable, does he, in the grey and black number 911. He's got Urs Frick right behind him, and then, yes, Tobias Erdmann is absolutely charging. Tobias will do this race solo, we're hearing, so no driver change as originally planned, and so he is going to be in for the duration, and that might not be a bad thing for that team's prospects. He looks very quick, and as you said, mixing it with, in theory, much faster cars. Westarp led, by the way, by 1.6 seconds at the end of the opening lap, and Hermann Speck will be ruining that quite cautious run through the first couple of corners, won't he? Because he's got Mike Janser between himself and the leaders, and Janser looks quicker than the GT3 spec Porsche at the moment.
He does indeed. Impressive stuff so far from Janza, who, again, I've laboured the point, but I feel it's worth repeating. If you're joining us for the first time, it's only his 4th race meeting ever. Granted, this is the only circuit that he's done a race event at prior to this weekend, and he really does seem to be quite confident in these wet conditions. And while that Porsche 992 Cup car is often tricky on the edge, it's not too far back from a GT3, as we can see, potentially at least, up at the sharp end of the field. But really interesting intermingling, and the old adage of the great equaliser of the wet weather seems to be coming true.
Very much so, with real mingling of particularly the GT4 and the Cup 2 battles, which make their way towards the end of another lap. It is Reinbold who is the cork in the bottle here, isn't he? Keep an eye on Tobias Erdmann. There he is in car 27. He likes this really wide line through the final corner. Look, carries so much speed into the turn and then runs round the wet line, cuts back to the late apex, carries good speed down the straight, and that means that Igor Klyer behind him isn't able to drag alongside him, or at least hasn't been on previous laps, as you would expect him to be able to do. Urs Frick going on the attack on Marco Reinbold, who's defending nicely, but that defensive driving is not the fastest way around the track, is it?
No, exactly right. I think Reinbold probably has a bit more pace in the locker. It's just that he's far too busy driving through the mirrors at the time being. There is Fredrik Zebis having a little look to Igor Klyer. I think those two have swapped again at some point, haven't they? I think briefly they might have been the opposite way around, but Zebis is again proving to be a spoiler among the non-GT4s. Urs Frick is having a look into the first apex of the triple, and he gets it done. Reinbold down to 3rd in the Cup 2 class there, with a move from Urs Frick, who again looks abashedly confident in what is his 2nd meeting ever as a driver. Reinbold with a bit more experience than the SA Performance drivers, as we see there a little nudge from Fredrik Zebis, just saying hello to Igor Klyer in passing, I'm sure, but can't afford too much of that.
No, and Igor won't have appreciated that. His main goal today is to keep the car in one piece, he tells us, and okay, that didn't do any major damage, but there'll be a little witness mark on the right rear corner, I suspect. He's actually going on the attack now, though. That spurred him on nicely, goes up the inside of Tobias Erdmann, and that did give him the hurry up, and now the leading 2 GT4 cars side by side. Again, they don't run in the same class as each other, but there is a little bit of bragging rights here up for grabs, and Fredrik Zebis goes right round the outside of the penultimate corner. He'll be on the grippier line into the final turn. Of course, Tobias has been using that line so far in the race, but he's not able to on this occasion. Zebis keeps on coming. They're still side by side, but the Porsche, which always performs well in a straight line, had the better exit anyway, and does move ahead of the Audi.
And a reminder, if you are new to GT racing, that GT3s and GT4 cars have to be rear-wheel drive, so if you're familiar with your road-going supercars, you will know that the Audi R8 LMS, or rather the road-going Audi R8, does feature 4-wheel drive, but in this specification for GT4 racing it is rear-wheel drive, so that would explain the traction deficit there, as Fredrik Zebis, with his more deft touch on the throttle, pulled away going out of the final corner, and now leads among the GT4 spec cars. Meanwhile, Hermann Speck has just gone faster than anybody else through the first sector split. It seems as if he's winding up the taps now on his new Porsche 992 GT3R, and he's using it to catch the similar but certainly slightly less high performance Cup machine driven by Mike Janza.
Yeah, looks quicker, doesn't he? And he'll be aware that Thomas Vestarp is only a few seconds up the road, so if Hermann can get past Mike Janza, he's still got half a chance of challenging for the win. Izzy and I spoke briefly to Hermann after race 2, and he was selling us on the benefits of having a rear-engined car in wet conditions, the traction you get off the corners, but also he said one of the things he really likes about this particular car is that when it does get sideways, it does so in a really controlled and gradual manner. It doesn't snap sideways as other cars that he's driven have had a tendency to do, and in these conditions that will do wonders for his confidence, which is the main thing he told us that he needs to really work on.
Exactly, yes. Being sideways a little bit isn't necessarily a problem as long as you've got the confidence that you can get it back. Mike Janza, I think, lifting out of the throttle there early doors, allows Hermann Speck back through into second place. Now, what can Hermann do about the Audi up ahead? About 5 seconds clear at the moment is Thomas Verstappen, who just set a 1:45.051 as the new fastest lap of the race, but we've seen Hermann spurring himself on and getting quicker and quicker, and now he's got clear track to see what his ultimate pace is in these treacherous conditions.
Yep, so out of the tight left-hander we go, 39.5 minutes to go, so we're still best part of 10 minutes away from a pit window opening as well. And so time now for Hermann to get his head down and show us what he's capable of. His first sector is about half a second slower than Thomas Verstappen, but he was still in the process of passing Mike Janza at the time. The middle sector will be telling, I think, and I wonder whether he's now got the speed to go after the race leader. They fire the cars through the flip-flop chicane, still not shying away from the curbs, even in these very tricky conditions. Turn our attention now back to the leading GT4 car, which now has Marco Reinbold's Porsche between them, because Reinbold has fallen back and Igor Klyer is now into third in class. That's changed on this lap by the looks of it.
Yes, exactly. At the start line, Reinbold was still ahead of Igor Klyer, so he's lost 2 positions somewhere out there on the circuit and a bunch of time with it. And he will be annoyed with himself, I'm sure. Just looking at the sector splits for Reinbold, actually both sectors seem to be relatively okay, so I'm not too sure quite where that has come, but he's clearly behind both Klyer and Zebis now, and unfortunately that means he's got some work to do to try and reclaim a podium at this stage, and the not small hurdle of the Cayman between himself and Igor Klyer.
Yeah, indeed. So good to see a good number of spectators sticking out the weather and enjoying their GT Summer Series spectacle. And it's been a busy place actually today, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Oschersleben. We had a wander around before, and the viewing area along the start-finish straight has been a popular vantage point today. Great place to come and watch racing, actually. You can see a lot of the track from quite a few different vantage points. A very busy grandstand, partly because it's got a roof, which is protecting the spectators from the worst of the weather, but it's been busy all weekend. It's been really nice to see. And hopefully we can put on a show for the crowd here this afternoon. I have been monitoring the lap times at the front, and Hermann Speck not yet as quick as Thomas Verstappen, so that gap is now 5.6 seconds, but the middle sector is where Hermann has been a little bit quicker so far, so we'll see whether he can really start to build on that now and maybe start bridging that gap.
Now we're seeing the leading cars chipping away towards the low 1 minute 40s bracket, and I think that's a combination of indeed just having had a few laps in these conditions and figuring it out, but also it has actually, I think, stopped raining out there. It doesn't look like there's at least anything hitting our windows here in the commentary box, but by no means is it going to dry out in the next 37 minutes. All the same, the track might get a little bit more friendly and a little bit quicker before we're done here.
Yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it? The drivers, I'm sure, would enjoy the conditions improving to a point, but actually if we really start to lose the surface water, that can sometimes lead to some tyre dramas and just slightly greasy, tricky conditions, really. Purple middle sector for Hermann Speck on the previous lap. Again, 4 tenths quicker than the leader. Purple final sector for Urs Frick, quickest of anybody, and indeed half a second quicker than the leader in his Cup 2 Porsche. He's 4 seconds behind Mike Janza, but was a second faster than him on the previous lap, so Cup 2 lead battle is not yet ignited, but I think is headed in that direction.
Yeah, an ultimate fastest final sector is really impressive, faster than either of the GT3 cars at the sharp end of the field, and yes, we'll keep Urs Frick in mind and in vision as well. Again, Hermann Speck taking time out of Verstappen. He took about a tenth and a half out of the Audi on the previous lap in totality. It didn't necessarily always be quicker in each sector for Hermann Speck, but it does seem as though he's knocking on the door of being back under 5 seconds away here from Thomas Verstappen, and there's a long, long way to go. If he can make incremental gains and the DB Motorsport crew can do their usual magic in the pit stop and get the car out right as it needs to without any extra time spent in the lane, then potentially Speck can challenge for a win here.
Well, he was 2 tenths quicker than the leader in Sector 1, although oddly then drops half a second in Sector 2, where he's traditionally been very strong. Cars 9... Oh, off goes the 30. We'll cover that in a moment. Gökay Kutlu has been off. I think that is... Where is that actually?
That was the third apex of the triple.
It is, yes. He's thankfully got back on with no obvious signs of damage. 10-second time penalties for cars 911 and 77. 911 is Marco Reinbold, 77 is Igor Klyer. So 2 of our Cup 2 drivers were being out of or incorrect grid positions for the rolling start. So they will have 10 extra seconds to add on to their time, and that will, I fear, very much make Cup 2 a 2-horse race now.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it was Janza and Reinbold who were trying to kind of go down the middle at the start of the race, but I guess there was another issue slightly further back that we didn't see in amongst some of the spray. We ride on board here with Igor Klyer in the number 71, the crew down at Race Streaming, I believe, again responsible for the onboards here this weekend, being sold to the teams, and you can see all of the very useful data. Now, if we do stick with it, I was just going to look at the power curve there coming out of the corner to see how long it took him to go full throttle, but Klyer definitely having to take this one a little bit easy. I think the car's got some midweek commitments to tend to, so he really doesn't want to end up with any problems if he can possibly avoid it. But Zebis is making sure he can't rest at the wheel. He can't simply just drive this one easily and get on with passing it to Fabian Dibionka. He's going to fight for that, fifth position overall, right up until the point of the driver change, which, by the way, might not be far away, because we are 3.5 minutes now from the mandatory pit window opening, and I suspect that Igor would quite like to set Fabian on the circuit and see what happens.
Really good lap about to come in for Hermann Speck, by the way. Outright fastest first and second sectors. He's about 1.2 seconds quicker than the leader up to that point alone. Let's see what the lap time is. A 43.7 for the leader, and Speck will do a 43.1. So in the end, it's half a second gain, but it's the new fastest lap of the race for Hermann Speck, and that really, I think, is summarising his weekend. He's getting faster and faster and faster as he grows in confidence. Said that really the main difference that he's finding between the old car and the new car is him. He just needs to trust the car, basically, and get stuck in and show us exactly what the car's capable of, and he did just that on that previous lap. There goes the yellow Porsche 992, which is now only 5.4 seconds off the race lead, whilst the Cup 2 lead is now within 2 seconds. The gap between the top two, Mike Janza continuing to be reeled in by Urs Frick.
Yeah, Hermann Speck, Hermann Schnell at the moment out there on the circuit, but it's been down at the low 5 seconds before, and then it's extended out again. He needs to just try and keep it consistent here in this middle phase of the race. I think another... Oh, goodness me, not 3 seconds after I said you need to keep it consistent. Hermann there with a bit of a wide moment, or a bit of a slidey moment there, going towards the dogleg chicane there onto the back straight, but thankfully keeps it pointed in the correct direction. I wonder if there'll be any discrepancy here as to when the leading cars pit, of course, because neither has a driver change, so there's no concern there, but you can take at any point in the 10 minutes, and I think Thomas Verstappen, from memory, I think he decided to do it quite early in the races at Hockenheim, so we'll see how that one works out.
Indeed we will. Hermann, by the way, still 4/10 quicker than the race leader, even with that slide in Sector 2, so it's not slowing him down, is it? There was a similar moment there for Urs Frick as he turned into the second to last corner. The rear end of the Porsche Cup car just twitching slightly as he applied the brakes. Across the line he will go. The lead gap down by... up by 1/10 of a second exactly that time, so it's stabilised on that occasion.
And it's the last sector where Thomas Verstappen is consistently quicker, I think, particularly through turns 11 and 12, the S-bend, and indeed at Sachsen-Anhalt, the final corner. He just seems to be that little bit more confident, the leading car, in the Audi, the CCS machine, and Hermann has the edge in the first 2 sectors. He's just not quite nailed how to attack the final 4 turns of the lap.
No, but he'll continue to work on that. Half an hour still to go, and if he's within 5 seconds of the leader, that means he's close enough if a mistake comes, and there is a mistake for Igor Klyer, who goes through the gravel and spins on the grass. Now, hopefully he's not stalled the car. Igor just carried a little bit too much speed there into the third proper corner, and he ended up through the gravel. Thankfully gets the car fired back up and loops in immediately, trying to get back on the road with a little bit too much right foot application, but he'll a little bit more gently now get the car going again, and rejoins just ahead of, I think that was Tristan Grisventner in the East Racing Motorsport Porsche, so that will put him all the way down in 8th place now, and he's got 10-second penalty to deal with later on as well, so it's all going a little bit wrong for Igor.
Yeah, unfortunately so. The pit window opens now. I wouldn't mind betting that he decides to give it a bath early doors here and hand it over to Fabian Di Bianca to see if his words and his confidence in these conditions holds any weight. He told me with some confidence on the fan cam on the Summer Series Instagram account that he was thinking not just class win but overall win if it's raining, so we'll see what he can do after the first stint from Igor Klyer. Incidentally, do keep up with the Summer Series accounts because we do quite a lot beyond just these live broadcasts, and you can join in on the conversation and let us know what you want to see in and around our paddock in the future rounds. For now, I think SA Performance will be liking what they're seeing to an extent, but they'd also not potentially want Urs Frick to get too much closer to his teammate.
No, indeed not. Marco Reinbold in, by the way, as is Igor Klyer, I think, to the surprise of no one. Although I suppose he will be delayed getting to the line anyway after that rotation. But yes, you're right. Remember, the two SA Performance Porsche spent most of race 2 nose to tail and indeed trading positions. And I think they might be about to engage in some more of that activity very shortly. Igor Klyer is in and brings his Porsche to the attention of the PTT crew. There is Fabian Di Bianca ready to jump into the car, and we're going to be fascinated to see what he can do over the second half of the race. He's going to get 27 minutes or so of track time here to try and undo some of the damage.
Yeah, Di Bianca, a really talented young man, and we're seeing that here in the Summer Series. We've also been seeing that on the international stage as well in International GT Open this year, which PTT have made the move up into, and of course it all started for him in the GT Winter Series with a cameo last year at Barcelona. I was told in no uncertain terms to keep an eye on the young man who was jumping into Igor's car, and he's been impressing me ever since then. Both of our top 2 cars then have continued on for another lap, so maybe they're looking to split this one down the middle. I suppose there's some argument that you leave it as late as possible just in case it dries out, but surely not.
I don't see the slick tyres being needed, if I'm completely honest. But,
yes, I agree. Well, I didn't see it at Hockenheim, and yet Herman still rolled the dice.
And how did that end up?
Yes.
Yes, I think wet tyres the way to go today. And the one benefit of staying out is that if you pit early, because you are potentially going to lose a lap, aren't you, by pitting?
Yeah, about a lap.
Yeah, if there is then a safety car and you're trapped the wrong side of the leader, that can cause issues. You'll get the lap back because the leader will eventually pit, but you'll lose some track position, and that's the main benefit, I think, to coming in later. But hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. Of course, in these conditions, though, as we've seen, easy for a driver to just slip off the road, get stuck, and potentially lead to a safety car intervention. Thomas Verstappen, incidentally, has set the new fastest lap at 1:42.528. That was 1.4 seconds quicker than Hermann Speck. So although we have at times seen Speck go quicker than Verstappen, it seems that he takes a tenth here or there out of the leader, whereas when Verstappen puts a good lap in, he is significantly quicker, isn't he? And that's what we saw a lap ago. He's continuing, actually, to extend the margin on the next tour. So, yeah, looks good for the Audi driver out at the front of the field.
And we saw Gökay Kutlu coming in. He'll hand over to Alexander Danza down at WS Motorsport with the 30 car. Here is Fabian Di Bianca on his out lap, just getting around Tristan Geschwendtner, who's, of course, driving solo, so he should be in soon and just staying in the car, regrouping a little bit before heading back out onto the circuit. We also saw the 911 exiting the pits about a minute ago, and that's Paul Hochberger taking over, the race winner and indeed champion in Porsche single make categories, and has done quite a lot of what there is to offer in the German GT scene, and is also a Porsche specialist to every extent, because he makes his money, his bread and butter, as the head of sales at the Baden-Baden Porsche Centre.
Knows his Porsches then, doesn't he? Speaking of Porsches, in comes Geschwendtner in the Cayman GT4. Now, Fabian Di Bianca, who's now in Igor Klyer's number 77 car, is immediately, I would say, catching the car ahead. So this is going to be Paul Hochberger's car, which was piloted by Marco Reinbold. There it is. This is for position, remember. Both of these cars have pitted, and they both had the same 10-second penalty. So this is a genuine battle for, actually, a class podium.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be interesting once Di Bianca gets to the back. I think the pace, which we are seeing already, purple sectors from Fabian Di Bianca, the pace is there, but Paul Hochberger knows his racecraft. I don't think he's going to be an easy overtake for the young Polish.
No, I hope not. We want to see a battle, and I think we might get one, although actually I'm sort of intrigued to see how much progress Di Bianca can make if he does get to a clear track again quite quickly. Once all of the other Cup 2 cars are pitted, could that car still be in contention? He's just done another purple sector, a 36.5 in Sector 1, and so this next lap will be his first flyer. And we'll get a proper read then on what his pace is compared to the other Cup 2 runners. The top two in that class now 2 seconds apart, by the way. So Urs Frick, having arrived within a second or so of Mike Janser, I think Mike has realised he's under some threat and has upped the pace ever so slightly.
Top 2 cars overall are in. So Thomas Verstappen and Hermann Speck are in pit road at the moment, as is Frederick Zebis from third place. He was only 26.5 seconds back off the GT3 lead as a ballasted GT4 car, as the sister WNS machine of Alexander Danza taking what I'd call a bold approach to the chicane.
Yes, Danza dancing through the chicane there. That was some great weight transfer. Fastest lap of the race. I'll give you 3 guesses, Adam. It is Fabian Di Bianca, a 1:42.378. The previous best was a 42.5, I believe, by Thomas Verstappen, who, by the way, is pitted from the lead of the race, as indeed have Hermann Speck and Frederick Zebis. So Tobias Erdmann leads now in the GT4 Audi, but Di Bianca is going quite quickly.
There's a surprise, eh? There is the DB Motorsport crew then. Not much work ongoing. They're satisfied. Herman's satisfied. They've just got to serve their time in the pit lane, and Hermann, I think, will be quite keen to get back out there. He knows that he's able to match Thomas Verstappen and sometimes surpass Thomas Verstappen in terms of lap time. If he can string together quick lap after quick lap, he could yet challenge for a race win this weekend. There's been a switch as no surprises. Fabian Di Bianca has gotten past the 911 of Hochberger. Well, it's some surprise. I did think that Paul would maybe give it a bit more of a fight, but the youngster cannot be deterred right now, finding the limits and pushing beyond them, but he's making it work as we see him fight the car into the Shell S there. He's really pushing it under braking.
Yes, now that is the leader ahead of him at the moment, Tobias Erdmann's GT4 Audi, which is yet to stop, and one of the last cars that hasn't made a stop, as there Verstappen back out on track, finds himself temporarily dicing with Mike Janser, and does now get the better of the Porsche. Hermann Speck is somewhere in the background, I hope.
Yes, I think there may have been a miscommunication, though, on some of these pit stops, because 1 minute 27 stops for Janser and for Frick, and in the most recent published version of the supplementary regs for this race that I could find, it was 100 seconds, 80 plus 20 for driving down the pit lane itself. So I fear SA Performance maybe have gone a bit short on the pit stop here, as has by a few tenths at least Tristan Geschwendner, who's on a 1:39 on our screen. Now that will be investigated. They'll do their due diligence to make sure that it's not an error, but more often than not, the stopwatch is pretty honest.
Yes, now this was a change, in fairness, that was made after the weekend had started. I was sitting in on the team managers briefing on Friday afternoon, and it was discussed at length whether they should add 15 seconds on to the stationary time in the pit lane, just from a safety perspective, and it was agreed that that would be the case. However, there's no defence really, since all of the team managers were there, and so that would include the SA Performance squad, who appear to have forgotten that, because their pit stop was much closer to the original minute and 25 second limit, which coming into the weekend was the case. So this is at the moment a battle for the class lead, but you never know. I think Fabian Di Bianca might yet have a chance of winning Cup 2 regardless.
And the big tell as well, of course, is the fact that they're right there with Thomas Verstappen. I thought that was for position when they came out, and then I wondered quite how that had happened. And sure enough, yes, there is bit of discrepancy there. Hermann Speck's time was 2 seconds longer, but Verstappen's was 3 seconds longer, and they're about 10 seconds apart at the line. So I think all in all, Hermann has lost a bit of time over the last 5 minutes or so between the pit lane and just the in and out lap. So Verstappen with a bit more comfort now, and Frick having a look to the inside of Mike Janza, who strays out very wide there, and look at the run he got as a result of doing so. But you don't want to leave that inside just temptingly open, do you, for your teammate?
No, because he will probably try and step through that door, and hopefully you see him coming if that's the case. The last thing they want is to be trading paint with each other. Fabian Di Bianca, by the way, just set another new fastest lap of the race, 1:41.9. That was nearly 4 seconds quicker than Thomas Verstappen, who admittedly, actually, sorry, that was an outlap, I beg your pardon, but quicker certainly by about 4.5 seconds than Mike Janza, who we have on our screen right now. He is somewhere in the region of 30 or more seconds behind the leading two Cup 2 cars, but if they do pick up a penalty, which I suspect might be the case, then Di Bianca's going to be right in there, and he is definitely capable of lapping more quickly than the leaders. Verstappen, in fact, his first flying lap after the pit stop, a 43.0, is over a second slower than what Di Bianca's capable of doing. So it's a shame they lost time with the spin, actually, at the start of the race, the number 70, or early in the race, because maybe that overall win would have been a possibility.
Yeah, Fabian is such a talent. They were also the only team to get 140 bang on the money in terms of the stop. Both cars number 3 and number 69 have a 36-second time penalty for their mandatory pit stop being too short. Now that implies to me that that's added to the end of the race, a 36-second time penalty. So that is going to drop them, well, effectively at the moment, just behind Fabian Di Bianca, isn't it? Or around there. In fact, just a couple of seconds ahead for now. But it does look for all the world as if Di Bianca will therefore inherit the Cup 2 lead eventually. Not only that, but he continues, Andy, to amuse and bemuse with purple sectors and purple lap times.
Tristan Sventner, by the way, also picking up a penalty, an 11-second penalty for a pit stop being short by 1 second, as you mentioned. It was actually, I think, it was exactly 1 second, wasn't it, that he was under the minimum time. So yeah, they will have time added on. That will potentially not cost him anything at the moment. No, he's 17 seconds ahead of Alexander Danza, and that would be for second in the class. You're getting excited about Di Bianca again, are you?
Di Bianca had a slide there out of the hairpin after the triple, pretty much all the way to the chicane on the curb, just sliding it along. He is so fun to watch when he's in his element, and he does appear to be in his element right now.
Yes, another fastest lap last time by, and he's on 2 purple sectors on this lap as well. So sideways, loose is fast, as they say in the States, and Fabian Di Bianca proving that point.
Indeed. Mike Janza and Urs Frick continue to run second and third overall, continue at least momentarily to lead Cup 2, but that penalty looms large and Di Bianca is closing, so I don't think that's going to last. But for now they are still fighting. Of course, there is still the chance that they'll be P2, P3 in the Cup 2 class if they can go quicker than Paul Hochberger in the number 911. And I doubt somehow that Urs Frick will simply sit behind Mr. Janza, since they both have the same penalty. They can continue to fight for whatever position it turns out to be.
Absolutely, and it will be for a class podium, as you said. So at least one of them should still make it into the top 3 by default, as long as they reach the end of the race. Through the chicane come the 2 leading Cup 2 cars, Janza and Frick. And Urs Frick, having caught Mike Janza, hasn't really been able to do anything about getting past him on the at the moment anyway. I wonder whether maybe he's just biding his time, waiting for the latter stages, and maybe managing his tyres, because there's noticeably less spray now. In fact, hardly any standing water on the track at all there, heading into what was at one stage the wettest part of the track.
As we approach the final quarter hour of this race, just under 16 minutes left to go, it is Thomas Verstappen that leads the way after the pit window by around 5 seconds over this battle between Mike Janza and Urs Frick, which is, at least for now, for the Cup 2 lead. However, there's a 36-second penalty for each driver owing to a miscommunication with the pit mandatory time. They run second and third for now, but we expect them to drop down the order. In fourth overall, second among the GT3s is Hermann Speck in his Porsche 992 GT3R, and then another Porsche, one of the Caymans, Maximilian Schreier, having taken over the sole GT4 Pro entry, and he runs 5th overall. Coming across the line just a few seconds behind him, 5.8 seconds back from Schreier, is the charging Fabian Di Bianca, who continues to be the only driver out there setting 1 minute 41s, is a second faster, roughly speaking, than the leader on most laps, and a good 2 or 3 seconds faster than anybody else out there in this, the number 77 4F sponsored PTT Racing Porsche. Behind him is another Cup 2 car, Porsche 992 GT3 Cup. That's being driven by Paul Hochberger of XR Racing. Tobias Erdmann leads GT4 AM, today driving solo, or at least in race 3 driving solo, in the Seyfarth Audi R8 LMS GT4. He's followed by Tristan Geschwendtner and Alexander Danzer in their respective Porsche Caymans to round out the top 10, and indeed the order of cars that are running on the circuit. Jansa and Frick remain close together, and Hermann Speck is gradually closing in on them too.
Well, he's just set the outright fastest middle sector, Hermann, so he's started to wake up again now in the second half of this second stint. And 35.4, a decent middle sector time, although we'll wait and see whether Fabian Di Bianca has an answer for that, maybe, as he continues to chase down at the moment Maximilian Schreier, who is your GT4 Pro leader, the only car in that class, but the highest placed of the GT4 cars in the race outright. For Thomas Vestdarp, though, he just needs to keep it on the island here for the next 14 minutes, and it should be a weekend sweep, which we didn't see anyone manage, at least with overall or GT3 class wins at Hockenheim, but here at Oschersleben, he has been absolutely unstoppable thus far.
Yeah, it's been really incredible to watch Thomas Vestdarp, and at times he's felt a little bit shortchanged for battles. Race 2 certainly rectified that with Hermann Speck. We've heard rumours of high teens, if not 20 cars coming into the Nürburgring, and at least a few of those I know confirmed to be joining us either for the first time or returning back from Hockenheim. So I think coming out of Oschersleben with maybe a few days to reflect, he'll go, actually, 3 wins, I'm okay with that. If he can get to the checkered flag, there's still a long way to go in these very treacherous and ever-changing conditions. It's obviously drier to the human eye than it was in the first laps of the race. All of that standing water, all of that spray that we had in the first 10 minutes or so of this race. So the conditions evolving, the limit evolving for these drivers, and they've got to be so careful to make sure they nail that balance.
Indeed so. Frederick Zebis there watching on from the WNS Motorsport garage as their car, one of their cars, is about to come under threat for 5th position overall, because Fabian Di Bianca has almost caught Maximilian Schreier now, who's doing really well, to be fair, to be in the top 5 outright in his GT4 Porsche Cayman. There is Di Bianca catching Schreier. He's got more straight line speed, goes to the inside. We ride on board with Fabian Di Bianca as we blast past the GT4 spec Porsche. We get a good view actually of this right-left flick that heads down towards the end of the lap. It's a slightly awkward sequence of corners here. It's quite steeply downhill as well into the final turn. That can make that quite a tricky corner, but Di Bianca negotiates it well. Shouldn't have lost too much time with that overtake. He's now 19 seconds or maybe 20 seconds behind the next car, which is Hermann Speck's GT3 Porsche, 20.7 to be precise, so that might be now as good as it gets for Di Bianca, but with 12 minutes to go, I'm sure he's not going to settle for anything.
And looking at both the body language of the car and then the onboard data there with that race streaming onboard, you can see that he's using the brake to turn in quite a lot on some of these corners. You can see him kind of using, I'm sure, maybe playing with the brake bias a little bit to pitch the car into the corner, and then you can see him balancing the car on the throttle and even trying to get a little bit of extra turn and extra rotation coming out of these corners, and that's a remarkably brave thing to do, and that's, I think, that is that few percent that often separates a pro driver from an AM driver, driver is pro drivers are just wired differently to look at the tools in front of them. Okay, I've got a pedal, I've got another pedal, and I've got this steering wheel. Let's see how I can use all three to get through these corners as quickly as possible, and that's what we're seeing from Dibionka right now. Janza and Frick remain close together. It's a brilliant dice, and it is a shame, really, isn't it, that they're not going to be able to hold on to these positions. They're at least going to fall down the overall order behind Hermann Speck, and it looks very much likely that they'll end up behind Fabian Dibionka. Right now they will lose the Cup 2 1-2 based on what we're seeing on our timing screens, with a 36-second penalty hanging over the heads of both of these two SA Performance Porsche drivers. But all the same, they are fighting. At the very least, they could be on the podium. Both could still be on the podium, as I think they're both going quicker than Paul Hochberger. But at the very least, one of them will get onto the podium. The question is just whom?
Yes, it's touch and go. I think they're about 36 or 37 seconds ahead of Hochberger by my rough calculations, but I think that gap's going up, not down, isn't it? So
they're about even at the moment on time.
Okay, interesting. So that could be touch and go right the way to the checkered flag then. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Dibionka, by the way, new fastest lap, 41.0. There he is through the corner, which his teammate threw it into the gravel trap earlier on in the race. Igor Klyer will be very much enjoying, I think, watching the second half of this race from the sidelines and seeing what Dibionka does best. He is 19.7 seconds behind Hermann Speck, though. I'm not convinced he's going to get there. Could Speck catch the Cup 2 Porsches? That is more of a possibility, perhaps.
Yeah, he's been working in that direction, hasn't he? But much like the first phase of the race, sometimes he'll take a second or so out of them, and then he'll lose a couple of tenths on the next lap, and it kind of ebbs and flows. But it does seem he's taking 2 steps forward for every step back, and within the last 10 minutes, he might just get there as Mike Janza drifts out wide there at the final corner. Gets a good run out of the main straight for his troubles, but he doesn't want to risk that too many times.
No, I'm not convinced that was an intentional wet line that he was taking. I think he locked the rear brakes, didn't he, into the corner, and that has given Urs Frick a little bit of extra incentive to have a go here. Stuck his nose to the inside into turn 1. Not really looking to make a move, but just trying to put off the driver ahead and maybe force Mike to leave the door open. But Mike Janza was wise to that one and holds on to the road class lead for the time being. But this has been a fascinating battle. Today's 2 races have been Cup 2 at their very best, haven't they? With next to nothing really to choose between the various drivers on outright pace. Okay, Fabian Dibionka is on another level, it would seem, but the rest of the regular drivers in these cars have proven why Cup 2 very often does produce some of the closest racing we see.
And that's the case, of course, in both the Summer Series and the Winter Series. We often see some fantastic battling between them. And in the case of Igor Klyer and Fabian Dibionka, that's where the Gedlich Racing team have met them in previous seasons. Regulars down in the Winter Series in Portugal and Spain. And so great that they've joined us here as well for what is now effectively a 3-pronged campaign. They started in Spain in the winter, and now they're driving back and forth across the border to do the Polish National Championships and the GT Summer Series, so they're staying busy, and that's before you even consider some of their GT3 programs that they're doing internationally as well. The Liechtensteiners then, the SA Performance Anstalt team, they've been watching on with interest, and for reasons like that, what we just saw as Frick again investigating the possibility of getting past Mike Janza and getting a little too close for comfort, but Janza remains installed in second for now. But again, remember, 36-second penalty, they will drop back. It's a question of how far back overall and indeed how far back in class, and since they both had the same penalty, well, they can at least keep fighting each other.
Indeed. So all is right with the world. Oh, briefly was always right with the world for Thomas Vestart, because he had got the fastest lap, but then by 1,000th of a second, Fabian Dibionka said, "Oh no, you don't. I'm the fastest driver here at Oschersleben this weekend," and 140.620 is now the benchmark to beat. But the only driver who can get anywhere near Thomas Vestart's pace, indeed beating it slightly, is the driver of a Cup 2 Porsche. It is remarkable, isn't it? But Fabian Dibionka has been an absolute joy to watch in in this one, and he is continuing to pump in personal best sectors. Not many drivers actually setting personal best laps at this stage, although a handful did last time by, but Dibionka clearly still has plenty of life in the tyre and is finding ways to go faster and faster with every tour. He was half a second quicker than the leader in Sector 1 alone this time, as again he drifts his way beautifully out of the long looping right-hander.
As Frick there, losing it under braking into the S-bend. I think he may have just avoided a trip to the grass or the gravel. He certainly emerges into the next corners, but he does so much further behind Mike Janza. Just lost the rear on entry and drifted way wide, and that puts him now firmly into the clutches of Hermann Speck in the wider, more imposing, full-fat 992 GT3R. And certainly Hermann's not going to worry about class distinctions and whose spec is what. He just wants to get onto the overall podium and move into the top 3 and make some overtakes and have some fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's flashing the lights at Frick there as he went through turns 1 and 2, and maybe that distracted him more than us, actually, because I don't think that was an ideal line through turn 2. But anyway, he's signalling his intent here. I don't know whether he's aware that the cars ahead have penalties. It makes no difference for his class performance anyway, but I think he'll probably want to get past them regardless if the opportunity presents itself. A little mistake for Urs Frick will tell Hermann that maybe he can apply some pressure, and the door might be opened quite willingly by the driver ahead as the overall race leader here. Thomas Vesterp now with a 10.5 second or more lead over the next group of cars. Just negotiates Tristan Geschwendner, who is on course still for second place in GT4 AM and has been lapping a little bit more quickly than Tobias Erdmann over the last few laps. The gap, I think, is too big, 6 seconds or so, but it's been another decent showing this from the racing rookie.
Yeah, no, Geschwendner seems to be taking to this weather like, well, a duck takes to water. I hate to say it, but it is the most obvious analogy right now. And I think in terms of a first weekend, he's certainly covered all bases, hasn't he? We had lovely sunshine for race 1. Race 2 was the greasy no man's land that no racing driver ever likes. And we've gone from horrible standing water to what is now simply a regular wet circuit in the course of this race 3.
Yes, and a wet but drying circuit is another learning experience, isn't it? Because you've got to manage the tyres and manage the way that the car will change. This is the biggest change in driving characteristics you'll ever really feel from a racing car. Okay, when it goes from dry to wet, that's quite dramatic, obviously, but every lap now, the car will be behaving slightly differently through each corner as the surface water evaporates away, the track temperature starts to come back up, the tyres start to get warmer and warmer, and so yeah, he'll be learning with every lap that he turns, even at this stage. But yeah, pretty impressed with what he's been doing this weekend, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in the near future.
I think it's going to be a quick development curve, isn't it, seemingly, and I think they're going to do a good bit of testing as well. Both he and his elder brother have done a lot of track days and testing. I understand it's not long before we see both parties here in the summer series, or at the very least at the winter series. I joked with Michael, the father of Tristan Geschwendner, about the Portimao 6 Hour, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're doing it. We're doing the 2027 edition of that, those two. Yeah, we're definitely doing that." So we're going to see a lot more of them in the Gedlich paddocks going forward, and that's A-OK with me.
Indeed so, and yeah, that's going to be exciting to see as this gets very close now for second position. Mike Janza has been re-caught by Urs Frick, and Urs has brought a friend with him to play in the shape of Hermann Speck, who just did the outright fastest first sector on this lap, actually did Hermann. There's the leader. He looks pretty safe now with essentially 2 laps remaining in this 6th round of the GT Summer Series, but second position overall still very much up for grabs. It won't really alter podium positions unless Janza and Frick swap, which they could. Frick looks to the inside at turn 1. Well, that's a deceptively quick corner and not an easy place to get a move made.
Absolutely not, no, unless you're fully alongside. It's sketchy at best and disastrous at worst. So Frick will have to wait for a slightly better opportunity here to take on, I think, what is now a battle for second in the Cup 2 class, because Hochberger has been a little bit slower, I think. I will actually just check this. Actually, it's 35 seconds at the moment between Mike Jansa and Hochberger. So right now, they're effectively on top of each other in the corrected times once the 36-second penalty is applied.
Well, as it should be, really, I guess, because they should have been closer together on the road anyway, had it not been for the penalty. Okay, the time spent in the pit lane, the shortness of the pit stop is usually a different number to the penalty that's applied, but yeah, in fairness, they should be quite close together. So they slither their way out of the chicane, and all of them now moving over to the wetter side of the road to try and cool the tyres down, and then bringing themselves back onto the racing line, where again Hermann Speck is flashing their headlights furiously at the drivers ahead, and in the hope that they will make a little bit of a mistake, as of course Urs Frick did a couple of laps ago.
The top three, or rather the top three Porsches in the race is how I'll salvage that, turn into the final corner to begin the final lap. Thomas Verstappen in the overall leading car, the GT3 AM leading Audi, currently on course to make it a clean sweep of the weekend here in the GT Summer Series and really build himself a mighty cushion to work with for the rest of the season. But we'll see if he can get to the flag, and we'll see what happens from here on out as Tristan Geschwendtner has a moment there at the Hotel Bend, turn 2. And, well, that's certainly not the way he wanted to end the race. Hopefully he'll get it turned around again before Alexander Danza arrives on the scene. I think he will still be a few seconds clear. But, of course, Geschwendtner has an 11-second penalty because his pit stop was 1 second short. I think potentially that could be him off the second step of the GT4 AM podium.
I think you're right. He was 17 seconds ahead of Danza and will have lost quite a bit of time with that spin at turn 1. Those lucky enough to be staying in the hotel down at turn 1 will have had a great view of that, but Tristan, I'm sure, would not particularly have appreciated that. Fabian Di Bianca, meanwhile, you're pointing at his lap times and shaking your head in disbelief. He's gone sub 1 minute 40 now.
Yeah, incredible driving from him, but all parties have impressed me in this race, keeping themselves on the straight and narrow when the conditions imply anything but. Just 2 corners from home is Thomas Verstappen in the CCS Racing Team Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2 for the 3rd consecutive race here at Oschersleben and the 4th consecutive GT Summer Series round. It is the number 45 Audi that takes the win. Thomas Verstappen sweeps Oschersleben and continues to build his advantage. He will be delighted with that. Second on the road will be Mike Jansa, but he has a 36-second penalty. It's a drag race across the line between Frick and Speck, and 0.02 of a second decides it in favour of Urs Frick. Both of them, though, of course, have 36-second penalties, which means that man in the white 77, on behalf of Igor Klyer, Fabian Di Bianca, will claim the Cup 2 win with his mighty final stint. We have going across the line there, that was a near-dead heat as well. 0.02 of a second between Danza and Geschwendtner for second in GT4 AM, and it just fell in favour of Alexander Danza. Geschwendtner almost salvaged it, but it wasn't to be.
Oh, that was so close, though, to the line. That was brilliant stuff. Penalties, though, I'm not sure have been applied yet, have they, onto the timing screen. So we'll wait and see exactly what comes of that and whether or not things will change. Fabian Di Bianca, by the way, set a new fastest lap at the end whilst winning the class, a 1:39.533 with another 2 purple sectors. A thoroughly impressive end to a thoroughly impressive race for him, and we do believe he's going to end up inheriting the Cup 2 victory once the times are corrected. So it should be Thomas Verstappen the overall winner, Hermann Speck second outright, and then question mark for third, because my maths isn't quite good enough to work out. Oh no, it will be Di Bianca, won't it, who leapfrogged up ahead of Jansa and Frick. But yeah, entertaining stuff, and a race that kept us guessing right to the checkered flag.
Yeah, very, very exciting things. And let's have a look at the standings, at least provisionally, because this is pre-penalties. Thomas Verstappen winning the race. We know that one to be true, but Mike Jansa and Urs Frick fighting for second and third overall. They will fall down the order and outside of the Cup 2 top 2 ultimately. Hermann Speck in P4 overall and taking second in GT3 AM. Fabian Di Bianca will inherit the Cup 2 win in 5th overall, and Paul Hochberger will be next in 6th overall. I think he will also at least inherit P3. I think potentially Mike Janza has done just enough to hold on to 2nd place in Cup 2, but I'm going to work that out in a few moments. Maximilian Schreier in 7th overall, ahead of Tobias Erdmann, who wins GT4 AM. Danza just beating Geschwendner to the line for 9th overall and 2nd in the GT4 AM class. That was quite the drag race there at the end of the race. All 10 cars that started took the finish. Unfortunately, we've lost a couple over the course of this weekend, but we'll see them back along with many others next time out at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Attention now turns to the podium here at the Heroes Arena, and we will be celebrating those podiums in just a few minutes' time. So let's take a look then. Mike Janza was 14.3 seconds back from the leader. Overall, Paul Hochberger was 49.8, which works out at 35.5 seconds. So that is a fairly comprehensive, well, that's enough of a margin for Janza to retain 3rd in class. Janza will retain 3rd. No, he will retain 2nd in class, sorry, with Fabian Di Bianca inheriting the Cup 2 win. Hochberger will be 3rd in class. He will be ahead of Urs Frick once all things are worked out and the penalties are applied. While we wait for the top 3 drivers to emerge from their cars and debrief with their teams, we will take a quick look at the highlights of that race. The team have worked very quickly to get them together to show us all of the highlights of that race. Of course, we started under safety car, 15 minutes of racing. First lap held under safety car in what were extremely treacherous conditions. The Cup 2 battle initially led by Marco Reinbold. Well, in fact, no, Mike Janza was further ahead still, and actually ahead of Hermann Speck in the early stages. Speck losing out to Janza off the line, but would get back past and get into 2nd position for the run down to the first corner. Igor Klaya having an off-track moment in his Cup 2 Porsche. What could have been if they managed to avoid that spin? Either way, Klaya and Di Bianca still win the Cup 2 class. The number 77 would really start to fly once young Di Bianca took over. Tobias Erdmann, who was driving solo, had a really good start in the 27 and continued to ply his trades well. And he would ultimately win, of course, in GT4 AM. We saw a lot of sideways moments out there on the circuit. We saw a lot of action as well among some of our Cup 2 Porsches and GT3 Porsches. It was all going on behind this man, Thomas Westarp, who was just building his lead at the front of the field. And in treacherous conditions, he seemed to be mastering getting the most out of his Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2. And we see him there now, back to live pictures, celebrating a well-deserved overall win. Again, I stipulate and reconfirm that Mike Janza and Urs Frick will ultimately be off the podium once all things are considered because of their post-race penalties. So the provisional order will be Westarp from Speck from Di Bianca, the overall top 3 in the race. And I'm sure that they will be all very, very happy. And I can see the kind of smug and pleased expression on young Fabian Di Bianca. He's giving the impression of a young man who knows he just did something quite special. He set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap of the race, and it was a 1:39.533. The only driver, including the GT3s, to go under 1 minute 40. That young man is going to go far, and isn't it a pleasure to see some of his formative steps over the first couple of years of his car racing career right here in the Gedlich Racing paddock across both the Summer Series and the Winter Series. Let's go down to the Heroes Arena. Izzy Browning has our top 3.
Well, here we go then. 3 wins out of 3 this weekend. Well done. That's 4 wins in a row now in the GT Summer Series. That one was ever-changing conditions. How much did you enjoy it?
I enjoy the condition. Now it was at the beginning full wet, and at the end it was a little bit easier to drive. And yeah, but I miss a little bit the competition. I hope the next event on the Nürburgring I have more competition and more fights.
Well, I was going to ask you that because, of course, as you said to me yesterday, it was a little bit lonely, the win yesterday. We are expecting more GT3s in the Nürburgring to join us, so you will have a bit more competition. In some ways, then, in terms of the championship, actually, these 3 wins could help you a lot at the back end of the season.
Yeah, I don't look at the championship. For me, it's better to have some fights in the competition.
Take it weekend by weekend?
Yes.
Well, you've done a fantastic job this weekend. I know that some of the wins were more lonely, but did you at least enjoy the weekend, enjoy driving here in Oschersleben? You seem to be very good at this track.
Yeah, I enjoy the weekend, yes. I like to drive the car and stay here with the team. Thank you on the team. It was a great job, and I hope the next event it's like the same.
Yeah, we certainly hope so too. It's been great having you this weekend. Congratulations this weekend. Great to see the performance. Yeah. Thank you very much, and thanks for speaking to us. And we'll enjoy the podium later on in just a few minutes. We are going to try and speak. I think Herman has just. I do want to come grab this man here. Wow! First of all, you put on quite the show as soon as you got in the car. How good was that?
Yeah, it was excellent. The car was prepared very well by the guys, so thanks to them this was possible. But overall, I'm also thankful to Igor for this opportunity. This is my job.
Yeah, well, you've done the job that was required of you. Igor was also here.
We did it for a good fame of the series, because if I will not spin out in the last lap, the general classification.
Okay.
So, he's young.
It was all planned.
Yeah, it was planned. Because we have a plan to, to rise in the general classifications race by race. So in I'm still thinking about it. So I did it for him, because he's young, he will be nose up, better not. He has to stay humble.
Here first, they might be allowed to get the win next time in Nürburgring, but it was really impressive. Just to give us a read on conditions out there.
Yeah, how he was driving.
So it was really wet in the beginning when Igor was driving. So on my stint, it was already starting to dry out. So in the end of the stint, the tires were overheating, and therefore I had the tire pressure go a bit too much, and then. On the last couple of laps, it was pretty dry. There was a dry line, so I had to cool down the tires so that the pressures don't go too high up.
Yeah, well, you did a fantastic job.
Because we have some tradition that it's called Spinelli competitions. So we have to do it. Otherwise, if no one will spin out, this is a shame. So unfortunately, one of our teammates was not here. So I did it.
Okay, you took one for the team.
Yeah, I have to. They don't know it. Yes, I did it.
Well, the team are laughing behind the camera, but you certainly did put on a show, and we enjoyed watching it. We'll see if they can get the win in Nürburgring, Adam.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it, at the Nürburgring? And certainly Fabian Di Bianca will be providing us with yet more entertainment. You can see Hermann Speck there, along with Thomas Verstappen talking and debriefing after that race, and I'm sure they'll be exchanging notes on how tricky those conditions were. Hermann Speck, who will inherit second position overall. Fabian Di Bianca and Igor Klaya, who we just spoke to, will take on third position. And it will be, to reiterate the Cup 2 order, Di Bianca eventually the Cup 2 winner. Janza just held on to enough of a buffer to take second in the Cup 2 class, but it does look to me as if marginally we will see Hochberger take over the third position. No, Urs Frick is going to hold on by 0.005 of a second, just doing the maths, so I think it will still be a double podium for SA Performance after all of that. And while the penalties certainly weren't ideal, they continued to fight all race long, and they seem to have a lot of fun doing it. Seeing some of the WNS Motorsport drivers there, you can see Frederick Zebis in the white suit, Gökay Kutlu and Alexander Danza alongside him. Of course, we saw Danza there with a drag race with Geschwendtner at the end, which Danza just about won to take the runners-up spot in GT4 AM. That was Tristan Geschwendtner that we just saw walking through shot. He will be ready for the podium celebrations in just a few moments. And of course, once again, our master of ceremonies for that will be our very own Andy McEwen, fresh from the commentary box. Martin from PTT, as well as Matthias Lizowski and the drivers Fabian De Bionca and Igor Klaya, all in conversation down there by the podium, and I think they'll be celebrating a happy weekend of work and fun and driving. And it's so good to have Igor on board for a full season, a really bright personality, and young Fabian De Bionca has certainly appreciated that partnership with Igor Klaya, and will continue to do so. Discussions ongoing for all of the teams then after that race. Lots to unpack and lots to debrief. I'm sure they will look at the data and listen to the feedback to try and optimise their wet weather setups for weekends to come. We do occasionally get some rain, don't we, here in Germany? And of course, next up, the Eifel region and the Nürburgring specifically, which certainly has been known for having its own microclimate. So we'll have to keep an eye on the conditions and the weather forecasts when we get ready to go to the Nürburgring. That will be from the 28th through 30th of June, and that is going to be a really fun weekend. The season will really hit its stride from Hockenheim, from Nürburgring onwards, before we go into the summer break and then to Spa and a return to Hockenheim to wrap up the inaugural season of the GT Summer Series. Been a lot of positive feedback and a lot of happy drivers in the paddock this weekend and at the initial event at Hockenheim, which is really great to see. We're here with the ADAC Racing Weekend now for the remainder of the season, which really does mean it's a quite fabulous weekend for fans of GT racing. We hope you'll join us there. Let's join the podium with Andy.
Yeah, we're ready. Do you want us to start?
So, our final podium presentation of the weekend for GT Summer Series. Thank you everyone for gathering around to celebrate with our drivers. We're going to start once more with Cup 2, and it's a third place finish, a third podium of the weekend for Urs Frick. Congratulations, Urs. There he is, just chatting with his fellow drivers behind the podium. Second position goes the way of the driver who won in races 1 and 2, Mike Ganser. If it wasn't for that penalty, maybe it would have been a hat-trick of victories. But in the end, it's the PTT Racing team who celebrate victory, thanks to Igor Klaya and Fabian De Bionca. What a performance from those two. Fabian in particular impressing with setting the fastest laps of the race in a Cup 2 Porsche, quicker than the GT3 cars, relishing the conditions. And that was a fantastic performance from both of them, and they will be really happy with that. It's their first podium of the weekend, and it comes in the longer third race and in the trickiest of the conditions. So they hold the trophies up. They'll pose in a moment for photos, as they're also, I think, quite keen to reach for the bottles of fizzy beverage that are on the podiums with them. But they've got to wait till the photos are done, and I think in a moment it's going to be my time to hide behind the podium. Yep, here it comes. So, our first champagne spray of the afternoon. And it is the PTT team who win the race to get the corks from the bottles. And that's only fitting, I suppose, having won the race as well. So, a round of applause, everyone, for our Cup 2 podium finishers.
And Igor Glyer is for the soggy conditions up on the podium. He'll squelch his way off. And careful not to fall, Igor. That's quite a slippery surface now. Right, GT4 AM is up next, but we've got to redress the podium first, of course, with the fresh bottles. Out they will come, and yep, I think we're good to go. So, third position in GT4 AM, Tristan Gespendner. Where is Tristan? There he is, runs out onto the third step of the podium. Congratulations, a second podium visit of the day. Second position for Alexander Danza and Gökay Kutlu. 3 second place finishes in GT4AM for the WNS Motorsport pairing. This time doing it together, of course, in the two-driver race. It is, though, the Race 1 winner who is victorious once again in Race 3 for Seyfarth Motorsport, the race winner, Tobias Erdmann. Well, after a disaster in Race 2, the team bounced back with the spare car and are able to win the race. What a brilliant opening few laps that was for Tobias, charging his way through from the back of the grid to lead the class after just a couple of corners. He will receive the winner's trophy and is very happy with that, I am sure. Out come the trophies, and he takes the second trophy as well. He won 2 races this weekend, I suppose that's fitting, and will take 2 trophies courtesy of winning that third race. Pose for the photos again, drivers, and then it's time to spray the champagne. I think Tobias is having to settle for just the 1 bottle by the looks. So I know he's got 2 there ready and waiting. There'll be a party at Seyfarth Motorsport tonight, I'm sure, because he now can spray 1 and save the other if he wants. Right, what are we doing with the drinks? Are we spraying the champagne? No, well, Tristan is saving it for the team party tonight, but Tobias, Alexander and Gökay, they're going to celebrate with another champagne spray, and Tobias Erdmann gets the brunt of it from the WNS boys. And brilliant stuff on the podium. Our GT4 AM podium finishes, everyone. Forburnt. There we go, for burnt, says Tobias. That's nice. So Tobias then with a race victory, and had to do it solo, of course, in the end. Right, GT4 Pro up next. This one shouldn't take too long. We've got 2 drivers, but just the 1 car, of course, entered into GT4 Pro. But another really exciting race for the WNS Motorsport pairing of Frederik Zebis and Maximilian Schreier. Out they come. It's been a hard weekend at the office, but they've managed to come out with a set of really solid overall results, and hopefully they've learnt the track a little bit ahead of their races here at Oschersleben a little bit later on in the season. Really good that they've been able to use the GT Summer Series weekend as a bit of practice for what's to come a bit later in the year. They will pose together on the quite soggy top step of the Oschersleben Heroes Arena podium, and still a couple more photos to be taken. And now they're going to save the drinks for later, so we'll give them a round of applause. Our GT4 Pro winners, Frederik Zebis and Maximilian Schreier. So the last podium then about to be set. It is, of course, GT3 AM, and well, not quite as close in that race between our top 2, but it was a fantastic performance from them in, again, difficult conditions. Second position then, we'll start with our runner-up once more in GT3 AM, Hermann Speck. Out he comes, and on to the second step of the podium. But once again, he was left chasing the CCS Racing Audi. It's a 3rd win of the weekend, an Oschersleben sweep for Thomas Vestarp. Well done, Thomas. Handshake with Hermann onto the top step of the podium. And in really difficult conditions that time around, he was able to keep control of the Audi. There were periods of the race where Hermann looked quicker, but Thomas Vestarp, more consistent, managed the pit stop cycle well. And he is your winner in GT3 AM. Another round of applause from the crowd gathered around the Heroes Arena. And perhaps one more champagne spray to come. Let's wait and see what the drivers elect to do. Is it time for me to run and hide? No, they're saving it for later. So well done to our podium finishers. That concludes our Heroes Arena podiums for round 2 of GT Summer Series.
So, Excellent stuff from our GT Summer Series competitors, and it feels a bit more like summer now, is he? The rain has gone away, and it was a pretty entertaining race, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was, and that's a clean sweep, as you say, an Oschersleben sweep for Thomas Verstappen. And I said to him, yeah, it might have been a bit more lonely, but we are expecting more GT3s in Nürburgring to fight with, and actually, as we've said all weekend, he might look back on this in terms of championship. I know he said, I don't look at the championship, but he might look back on this and be like, actually, that was a pretty good weekend that I needed to bag those wins.
Exactly right. Yeah, you can never say no to a free lunch, and I think that's in some regards what he's had, at least in race one. But on Sunday, Herman was a lot closer at times, and they gave us some really good entertainment at the sharp end of the overall in the GT3 order. And yes, once we have some more of those factors in for Nürburgring, I think the back half of this season is going to be very compelling, and I certainly don't think CCS and Thomas are having it all their own way.
No, certainly not, and we'll be excited to welcome those new entries in Nürburgring. Well, I mean, we've had a couple of people, Tristan, the one that stands out to me, kind of new to things this weekend, new to racing, Herman new to his car, and really, this has been a perfect weekend to learn because they've had just about every condition possible.
And it's all about learning, right? I mean, we've even had the W&S boys here learning for an event that they'll be doing later in the season. If they do get some changeable conditions, that's all going to prove useful. But yeah, if you're pretty new to racing, there's a tendency maybe to shy away from the more challenging conditions. But what's the point? You're going to encounter rain, you're going to encounter races where you've maybe not going to be on the ideal tyre, the ideal setup, and this is a perfect place to come and learn it. Tristan did have a little moment towards the end, but we can allow him one. That was his one little mistake all weekend, and still made his way onto the podium, so he'll be happy.
Yeah, he certainly did, and it's been great to have him in our paddock this weekend as well. And it's been great to have all our faces who have returned from Hockenheim to join us here in Oschersleben. It's also been great to have your company all weekend. We will see you in a month's time at the Nürburgring. Join us then.